Hey guys, so today we're going to continue with the reading section. Yesterday we started and we went through questions, two types of questions, right? We saw detailed questions first, and then we did accept questions, right? Detail and accept. So today we'll continue with the next types of questions. Let's see. Okay, guys, do you have any questions before we start today's class? All right. So the next question type that we're going to see is called inference questions. Do you guys know by any chance what it means to infer? What's an inference? Does anyone know? Infer. Infer means draw a conclusion. Okay, so when you guys make an inference, then you're drawing conclusions based on certain information that you have. Okay, guys. Now, in this case, these infers questions are going to ask you about information that is not directly or explicitly mentioned in the text. So this information, you won't be able to find it in the text. But it will be information that is somehow implied, somehow text. Okay? So it's all about being logical. It's all about having, like, collecting data, collecting information, and then trying to come to a conclusion based on that information or that evidence. Okay, guys, it's all about being logical. We're going to see an example. Maybe Natalia, could you please read question 4?
What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Quiquinco prior to 2000 BC?
Okay, thank you. What can be inferred from paragraph 3? So that is how you know that it's an inference question, because it always starts in the same way. What can be inferred or what is suggested? If the question contains the words inferred or suggested, then it's an inference question. Okay, guys? And the information will be directly there, but you'll have to come to a conclusion. So we're going to do the same as what we did yesterday. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to try to answer this question, and then we'll discuss the strategy for this question. So let me know what you think the answer is. Okay, guys. So what do you think? What would you say the correct answer is in this? What would you guys say? Any ideas?
I would say may. Sorry.
Go ahead. I think that it's D.
Okay. Adrian, what were you saying?
I would say it's C. Option C.
Right. So let's see, let's analyze. First of all, as we said, this question, you won't be able to directly find the answer there. But here's what you guys have to do. This is me the question. There are two cases in this question. Sometimes they're going to ask you about something specific, like in this case, they say, what can be inferred from paragraph 3 about this specific thing? When you have something specific, then you're not looking for, you don't have to read everything. You don't have to read the entire text because they're asking about this and only this. But if you don't have this part and it just says, what can be inferred from paragraph 3 and then question mark, then that means that you have to read it. But in this case, we don't, because they're asking you specifically about Quetzalcoatl prior to 200 BC. So we're just going to focus on that information. In order for us to come to a conclusion and to draw an inference based, that's going to allow us to answer this question, we first need to know the facts, right? We first need to know what information we have about Quetzalcoatl prior to 200 BC. So you're going to ask yourselves, what information do I have about Quetzalcoatl prior to 200 before Christ? And you start looking for that information. You identify the words, the keywords, Quetzalcoatl prior to 200 BC. And you start reading, finding that information. What do we know about Quetzalcoatl prior to this time? First, it says, prior to 200 BC, a number of relatively small centers coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. Okay, they're not saying anything about Quetzalcoatl yet. Around this time, the largest of these centers, Quetzalcoatl, okay. So the first thing that we know is that around this time, prior to 200 BC, Quetzalcoatl was the largest of these centers that coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. That is the first piece of information that we got about Quetzalcoatl. That it was the largest of these centers that coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. Okay, guys, that's also already something. What else do we know about Quetzalcoatl? It says that Quetzalcoatl was seriously affected by a volcanic eruption, with much of its agricultural land covered by lava. So Quetzalcoatl was seriously affected, significantly affected by a volcanic eruption that covered, that damaged, and destroyed their agricultural land, it says, right? That is the next thing that we know about Quetzalcoatl. And then it says, with Quetzalcoatl eliminated as a potential rival. So what we know is that Quetzalcoatl was eliminated as a rival. So Quetzalcoatl was no longer significant. It was no longer a powerful center, right? Any one of a number of relatively modest towns might have emerged as a leading economical and political power in Central Mexico. So now they're not talking about Quetzalcoatl anymore, so we can stop reading. We don't have to read anymore, right? So that is what we know about Quetzalcoatl. Again, we know that it was the largest of these centers that coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. We know that Quetzalcoatl was seriously affected by a volcanic eruption that destroyed their agricultural land. And then we know that Quetzalcoatl was eliminated as a rival. Based on that information, then one of these options needs to make sense. one of these options needs to be like the missing piece of the puzzle. So we're going to find that option. So we start reading the options. It says option A, it was a fairly small city until that date. Well, that's not true, right? Because we know that it was actually the largest of the centers until that date, because they were eliminated. It's actually the other way around. They were a fairly large city, the largest of those cities, until that date when they were eliminated as a right. So option A is the opposite of what we actually know about Whitby. So it's not option A. We can eliminate that option. Option B says it was located outside the Valley of Mexico. What information do we have in relation to that? Remember that some parts said that it coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico, right? So we know that it could have been inside the valley or it could have been outside and near the valley. Now I'm going to ask you guys, do we have enough information to prove and to say that it was outside and not inside? Can we draw that conclusion based on the information? Not really, right? We can't do that. We can't draw that conclusion because obviously it could be in, it could be near, and we don't know. So we don't have enough evidence, we eliminate option B. And then option C says it emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. This is a very common TOEFL trap when they include words and phrases that are going to sound familiar to you. Because if you read the text, then there's a part that says any one of a number of relatively modest towns might have emerged as a leading economic and political power in Central Mexico. So it sounds familiar, but do we really know how Cuicuilco emerged? Do we have information about whether they emerged rapidly or slowly or how they emerged? We don't, right? We don't have that information. We don't know anything about how they emerged, whether it was rapidly, slowly, drastically, whatever. They are talking about other towns here when they say that other towns could have emerged. And we know that Teotihuacan was the town that emerged. But we don't know anything about how Cuicuilco grew, how Cuicuilco developed. So we have no idea whether they emerged rapidly as an economical and political center or not. And we do not have enough information to prove the point. Now, finally, our next option has to be the one by eliminating options, but just because it makes sense as well. So can you guys tell me why? Why is it option D the correct option? What do you guys think? Why option D?
Because it says that Cuilco was seriously affected by the volcanic eruption, with much of its agricultural land covered by lava. So it means that in that time, the economy was related with agricultural.
Perfect, yes. Because there's something missing, right? Like the question is, why were they eliminated? Why were they so seriously affected? It says that they were seriously affected by a volcanic eruption that damaged or destroyed their agricultural land. So that means that destroying their land was something big for them. Why was it something big? Because they depended on that land, right? They relied heavily on that land. They relied heavily on agriculture. Their economy relied on agriculture. And that's why it affected them so much. Because if they didn't rely on agriculture, if they didn't need agriculture to survive, then the volcanic eruption wouldn't really be such a big thing, right? It wouldn't really affect them so much. It wouldn't eliminate them as a potential, right? So there's something missing. It's like Cuicuilco was seriously affected by a volcanic eruption with much of its agricultural land covered by lava. And because they relied so much on agriculture, they were eliminated as a right? That's like the missing piece. And we do have enough proof, enough evidence to support the claim that its economy relied on agriculture, right? We have evidence. Why did their economy rely on agriculture? because after the volcanic eruption destroyed their agricultural land, they were really affected. So it's because they depended on that land. So if you have to try to go to that like logical reasoning, in order to get to the answer, it has to make sense and there has to be evidence. It's not just you're guessing, it has to always be relied on evidence and it has to be based on evidence. Okay, guys, from the text. So that's the correct approach to this question. Ask yourself, what information do I actually have about this? And based on that information, you should be able to come to a conclusion from one of the options. Okay, guys? Is that okay now? Do you have any questions at all about this question type, inference questions? Okay, guys, perfect. So our next question type is called purpose questions. And as the name says, they're going to be asking about the purpose of things, the reasons behind the author's choices. Why does the author talk about this? Why does the author use this quote? Why does the author use this word, this explanation? Why does the author mention this evidence? So it's always about why the author talks about something in the text. Okay, guys? We're going to see how to answer these questions. But let's start by looking at an example. So, Franklin, please, could you read question A? Only the question.
In paragraph 6, the author discusses the trading of obsidian operation. Order 2.
All right, thank you. So the question, rephrasing it, it says, why does the author discuss the trading obsidian operation, right? Why? The reason. So we're going to do the same. I'll give you guys some time to think about it and let me know what you think. Then we'll discuss. Okay, guys. So, what would you say? What do you think?
Maybe letter C.
I agree with the C.
Okay, perfect. So yes, it's actually C. Well done. So for this type of questions, you guys have to remember one thing about writing in general. And that's the fact that every paragraph is like a unity. Every paragraph has one main idea, talks about one specific thing, and is trying to explain something or transmit a message to the reader, right? Explain something. And that's called the main idea. So what you guys need to do for this question, first of all, is look for that main idea in the text. You need to ask yourselves, what is the main idea in this paragraph? Once that you have that main idea, then you're halfway done, because every single thing that is included in a paragraph, and I'm talking about everything, like let's say every comma, every period, every punctuation mark, every example, every detail, every word, every phrase, every quote, every piece of evidence, or everything that you can find in a paragraph is always going to be somehow related to the main idea and will always somehow support that main idea, right? For example, if I write a paragraph and I say, let's say, yeah, I can say, lightings are very dangerous. Okay, that's the main idea. And then I'm going to include a lot of details and examples and stories and facts and data and whatever in quotes to support that idea that lightings are dangerous. So I can say, for example, one lighting will hit this person and he died, right? That example, why am I including that example? Because I want to prove my point that lightings are dangerous. Then I can include a quote, right? According to this scientist, and then I quote, lightings are one of the most common causes of deaths for American people. So why am I using that quote? Because I want to prove my point that lightings are dangerous, right? And then I can include a fact. And then I can say, in fact, let's say 20% of lightings have caused huge damage. So why am I including that fact? Because I want to prove the point, the main point. So everything works like that in a paragraph. You have the main idea and everything that you have in the paragraph is supporting that idea. So the only thing you guys have to do is find that main idea. Now that can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but you just need to remember that main ideas will always be big. They are always going to be general and broad. They'll never be specific, about one specific thing. Another thing that usually helps is reading the first and last sentences, because most of the time the first and last sentences will contain that main idea. So in this case, if we read the first sentence, it says, the picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining and working, trade, population growth, irrigation, and religious tools. That right there is the main idea, right? The picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining and working, trade, population growth, irrigation, and everything, all of these factors. This means that there was positive feedback. Feedback means retroalimentación, right? Retroalimentación positiva. So all of these factors influenced each other positively, right? Had a positive effect on each other. Let's say that trading had a positive effect on population growth, and population growth had a positive effect on irrigation, and everything was connected somehow to make the Teotihuacan a good city, right? So everything was connected. Every single factor was interconnected. That is the main idea in this text. And the reason why the author includes this explanation of the thriving obsidian operation is to illustrate that, to exemplify that. How do we know that it's an example? It says, for example, right? So we already know that this thriving obsidian operation is an example of something. So we can already eliminate option A, let's say, explain why. It's not an explanation of why. We can already eliminate option D because it's not an explanation of manner, how, right? It's an example. So it could be B, give an example, or it could be C, illustrate. But in this case, The only option that contains the main idea is option C, because it says, illustrate how several factors influence each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city, which is exactly what we have in the first sentence, right? How all of these factors, mining and trading and growth, influenced each other, had a positive effect, positive feedback among each other, which made Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city, right? So that's what you guys need to do. Identify the main idea, and everything that's there is always supporting that main idea. How is it supporting it? By giving examples, by giving contrast, by adding information, by giving facts, whatever, by explaining how, explaining why, that it's always supporting that main idea. So the main thing is to understand what the main idea of the paragraph is. Okay, guys? And if you think about it, this is exactly that. The thriving obsidian operation is an example of that, because it says that this operation necessitated more miners and more manufacturers. So more people, right? Population growth. And then that led to increased wealth. So that had an effect on the wealth. And that attracted more immigrants, so immigration. And that gave more power to the elite. That gave them a means to coerce people, more labor force. That meant more irrigation works. That meant more population, and that meant more power and wealth. So everything was connected, until Teotihuacan was made such a powerful and wealthy city. So just look for the main idea. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions about that so far? Okay, guys. Great. So now what we're going to do is I want you to answer a question. This was the only purpose question that I found in the text that we're doing about the Teotihuacan, but I have another example from another set. Okay, so can you please screenshot this or maybe take a picture of my screen? This is the question that you guys will be answering. Sit down.
Yes.
Okay, guys, and this is the paragraph. This is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, guys? So try to answer that question. Same thing, identify the main idea, and you're already there. And tell me what you think. I'll give you guys 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, guys, so what do you think? What would you say the answer is?
Maybe B.
For me, can be D.
D, okay, B.
I think it's D.
I'm sorry, Natalia, what did you say?
I think it's letter D.
Okay, okay, we have two Ds. Okay, so yes, it is. The main idea is that, right? It starts with an explanation of what Darwin theory says. Darwin's theory says selective breeding occurs in nature, as natural selection is the engine behind evolution. And then these are the main ideas. It says, thus, the theory provides an excellent basis for understanding how organisms change over time. Nevertheless, if you can please give me a second, guys, be right back. Yeah, sorry. So even though it looks like this might be the main idea, then it is contrasted, right? It says, however, nevertheless, it's just a theory and elusively difficult. That is the main idea. If you guys want to classify the information, this is something that really helps when trying to look for the main ideas. Classify the information from general or specific. All of this is general, right? The first sentence is explaining what the theory is. The second sentence is actually a claim, right? Because it says that the theory provides an excellent basis for understanding how organisms change. So that could be the main idea. The third sentence is also a broad general idea that can also be the main idea. But if you start reading everything else, all of this is completely detailed, right? Those are details. Those are supporting details. So you're not going to find the main idea there. You know, they start talking about one specific thing. So you're definitely not going to find the main idea there. It has to be in the first sentences. So it's got to be one of those. In this case, it's this one here, right? And how do we know that it's this? Because there's a reason why they start talking about the holes in Darwin's theory, right? Why do you think that they would talk about the major holes in Darwin's theory? Because they want to support the point that it's just a theory and it's difficult to prove. It has faults, it has shortcomings. There are things that are missing explanations in Darwin's theory. And that hole is the reducibly complex systems. So the reason why the author talks about everything here and the reason why the author mentions this quote is going to be to support that point. That is just a theory and it's difficult to prove, right? So that's why option D would be correct. To support the claim that natural selection is just a theory and difficult to prove. As for option B, they don't really say anything about natural selection contradicting the basis of Darwin's theory, right? That's not what they say. They actually say something completely different. It says that Darwin's theory is that selective breeding occurs in nature as natural selection is the engine behind evolution. So they don't say anything about any contradiction between natural selection and Darwin's theory, right? Darwin's theory is based on natural selection, so not the other way around. So careful with getting confused with the ideas. But in this case, try to also do that, you know, separate details from broad ideas. You usually will find the main ideas in the first sentences as a big or general sentence. Okay, guys? Is it clear? Do you have any questions about this? Okay, guys, awesome. So the next question type that we're going to see is called paraphrase questions. Okay, these are basically what they look like. You're going to have to paraphrase a sentence, restating the sentence, saying it again in different words without losing the meaning of the sentence. Okay. Now, let's take a look. The good thing, the thing that I like about these questions is that most of the time you won't have to read everything. So they are really fast. They should be really fast. So this is how they look like. Maybe Salma, could you please read question 3 on my screen?
The theory is based on the assumptions that life develop from non-life and progress and evolve in an indirect manner.
Okay, and the question is, which sentence is most similar to that sentence, right? To the following sentence. So in this case, they will always give you a sentence from the text. This is the original sentence. And you guys need to find an option that has the same idea, that says the same, but in different words, of course, because you won't have the same. So this is about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. To give you some context, that is the theory. Okay, guys? So tell me which option you think is closest, is most similar to that sentence. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, right? But it's the most similar one in terms of meaning. Okay? So I'll give you guys some time and we'll discuss.
I think it can be C.
Okay, Salma, do you guys agree that it's C?
Well, yes.
Sí.
So actually, it's not C. Not really.
Is it A?
Yes, that's correct. It's option A. The thing is, even though C looks okay, what you guys need to do for this question is always identify the main purpose, the main idea of the sentence. So what question does this sentence answer? Like, what is this sentence trying to explain? If you guys ask yourself those questions, then what this sentence is trying to explain is the basis of the theory of evolution, right? So this sentence answers the question, what is the basis of the theory of evolution? What is the theory of evolution based on? The theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and progressed and so forth. But most importantly, if you guys analyze the sentence from a structure perspective, if you look at the main verb, in this case, the main verb of the sentence is based on. That is a really good thing. If you guys look at the main verb of the sentence, that is going to give you an idea of what the main idea is of the sentence. So the main idea of the sentence is to explain the basis of the theory, what the theory is based on. And most of the time, the option that you guys choose as the correct has to have the same verb or a synonym. But if you guys look at option C, even though everything looks fine because it has appropriate synonyms, the approach is different because it says, if we assume that all of this, if we assume that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner, his theory, Darwin's theory, holds true. Now, the focus of option C is to explain when or in which cases, under what circumstances, Charles Darwin's theory will hold true, right? But that's not what this sentence is trying to explain. This sentence is not trying to explain when or under what circumstances his theory will hold true. That is the main verb here, hold, okay? And it's not the same. But if you look at option A, the purpose of the sentence is the same. Even though there are things that are not exactly the same, the purpose is the same, to explain the foundation, the basis of the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is founded on evidence that non-organic compounds are the basis of life developed in an unguided form. I know that it's not the same saying assumptions than evidence, but it's close enough. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It just has to be the close, the most similar, the one that has the most, like the closest meaning, you know, to the one. So even though everything is not exactly the same, it's still close enough, and it's the closest one. So the theory of evolution is founded on this information that non-organic compounds are the basis of life, or that life developed from non-organic compounds, from non-life, and progressed and evolved, developed in an unguided way, in an indirect manner. It's the same, right? So option A is the correct one. To be honest, my main suggestion would be for this question, understand grammar, because if you understand grammar and you can identify the main verb in the sentence, then that kind of solves this problem for you. Because you will see it's always surrounding the main verb, right? The main idea here is when his theory holds true. The main idea here is whether his theory is whether it's hard to make assumptions or not. Here is about proving where evolution occurs. But the only one that contains the same or a synonym verb is founded on, right? What the theory is founded on. So to be honest, if you understand grammar and you're able to understand the main verb, then it's a quick win, an easy way to answer this question. And if not, ask yourself, what is this sentence trying to explain? It's trying to explain the basis of the theory. So look for another sentence that again is trying to explain the basis of the theory. And option A is the only one that meets that. Okay, guys? Is it okay? Do you guys see what I mean?
So we have to focus on the main verb and see the verbs that has each sentence.
Exactly. The main verb of each sentence is because there can be more verbs. Of course, there are going to be more verbs, right? But you need to be able to look for the main verb. In this case, this is the main verb. This is not the main verb. It's another verb, but it's not the main verb. This is another verb, but it's not the main verb. Another verb, but not the main verb. So you need to be able to understand the main verb. And the main verb is the one that's accompanying the subject of the sentence, right? So what is the sentence about? In this case, the theory, right? So the theory, what about the theory? The theory is based on, this is the main verb. In this case, for example, what is this sentence about? It's about the theory of evolution. What are they saying about the theory of evolution? That it's founded on, so this is the main verb. What about this question? What is this sentence about? It's about we, right? We're talking about we, it's the subject. We can prove, it's about us and what we can do and we cannot do. So this is the subject, this is the main verb, right? We can prove this or that based on these assumptions. This is the main verb. In this case, what is this sentence about? It's about his theory. This is the subject, and therefore, this is going to be the main verb. And in this case, what is the sentence about? It. This is the subject. And therefore, this is the main verb. So it's a grammatical point, but it helps, you know, it helps answering this question in a more technical way. But you can be logical and you can just answer without understanding too much of the grammar, you know, you don't necessarily have to review the grammar, but it helps, it does help. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, guys. Finally, let's take a look at the reference questions before we go. To be honest, I'd say this is the easiest one, and I really hope that you guys find it easy. It is about grammar, but let's forget about the grammar part, okay? Because it's something that comes naturally once you have an understanding of expressions and ideas. So in this case, the question is always going to ask you about a pronoun. So pronouns are words that are used to replace nouns, and nouns are the names that we give to things. So for example, if I say, my father bought flowers for my mom. He bought them for her birthday. Right? I'm going to write it down. My dad bought flowers for my mom. He bought them because it's her birthday. Right? So in this case, we have two sentences. It's not always going to be in the two sentences, but we have two. What are the nouns? Nouns are the names that we give to things. So in the first sentence, our nouns are that, it's a noun, because it's naming a family member. Flowers, it's a noun, because it's naming a thing. And mom is another noun, because it's referring to another family member. Now, in the second sentence, instead of repeating the nouns, we use pronouns. We replace those nouns with pronouns. So instead of saying my dad, I say he. Instead of saying flowers, I say them. And instead of saying mom, I say her. Okay. So I'm using a subject pronoun, an object pronoun, and a possessive pronoun. There are many different types of pronouns. There are demonstrative pronouns as well, these, those, that. But the important thing is that in this question, they're going to take a noun and they're going to be like, what does the word them refer to? And you have to say, it refers to flowers. What does the word hair refer to? And you have to say, it refers to mom. That's the way that it works. Okay, guys? It's just about understanding. To be honest, I don't want to like overwhelm you with the grammar part because I'm pretty sure you guys can do it without like consciously reviewing the grammar, okay? So the good thing and the thing that I love about this question is that it doesn't take too much time. It should take you about 40 seconds at most. So maybe, Adrian, can you please read question 5?
Perdón, háblame con el micrófono afuera. The word those in paragraph 2 refers to.
Thank you. So I'll give you guys some time to read. You don't have to read everything, just read around the word, okay? So I'll give you some time, tell me what you think, and we'll discuss.
Is it the D?
Okay, do you guys agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, me too.
So yes, exactly. So as you can see, you don't really need to do much. It's just about reading and you'll know. Some tips that I can give you before even going to the text and reading, my suggestion is try to answer these questions. It says the word those in paragraph 2 refers to. One thing about pronouns is that sometimes, not always, but sometimes pronouns can tell you the number of the noun, and they can sometimes tell you the gender of the noun. What do I mean by that? They can tell you if it's a plural noun or if it's a singular noun. Plural is more than one. Singular is just one, right? And they can tell you the gender, female or male. right? So what do I mean by that? If you have the word those, is it referring to a plural or to a singular noun? Is it referring to only one thing or to more than one thing?
Plural.
Plural, right? Because it's those, it means more than one. So you already know that it cannot be singular. So it's not going to be gene pool, it's not going to be survival, it's not going to be natural selection. These are all singular nouns. The only plural noun we have is the traits and characteristics. Those traits and characteristics, we cannot say those natural selection, those survival, those gene pool, right? But we can say those traits and characteristics. So just by looking at that, you already have answered the question, right? Obviously, not always going to be this, it's always going to be this easy. Sometimes you'll have more than one that's plural, so you have to check. And if you guys are going to read, then start by reading the sentence that contains the word. So start by reading this sentence that contains the word. If you don't find the answer, you need to read one before. If you don't find the answer, which is going to be really rare, you can read one before. But you're probably like going to find the answer in the first, in the sentence where the word is or in the previous one. So you don't have to worry about reading too much because you won't. In this case, it's in the sentence. And the thing that I suggest you do is start replacing to see if it makes sense. So let's see. You read the sentence, right? Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while the gene pool that harms survival, it doesn't make sense, right? So the traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while the gene pool that harms survival will be selected against. It's against of the gene pool, right? So it doesn't make sense. Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while survival that harms survival doesn't make sense either, right? Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while the natural selection that harms survival, it cannot be natural selection unless we have that in the previous sentences, but we don't, right? We don't have natural selection. So not C either. But if you read this, over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept, while the traits and characteristics that harm survival will be eliminated. That makes more sense, right? Will be selected against. It's like a parallel structure. The beneficial traits and characteristics are kept, and the harmful traits and characteristics are selected against, are eliminated, right? So you can start replacing if you guys weren't able to answer in the first step. But it'll be easy. You guys don't have to do a lot of thinking. Is it okay? What do you guys think now? Do you have any questions about this question type or anything else that we've seen today? No questions, all clear? Okay, that's awesome. Then please, today we have to actually fill out 2 surveys. I'm sending you guys the first. And when you're done, I'll send the other poll too. Tomorrow we'll finish looking at we are only missing, I think, 3 question types. So we're definitely gonna finish tomorrow. And on Friday, we'll be practicing, okay? We'll do another practice set entirely, on its entirety. We're not going to go question by question, but we'll do all at once. Okay, guys, that's what we're going to do on Friday. By tomorrow, we'll finish. All right, thank you. That was fast. I'm sending the other one as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow in class.
Thanks, see you tomorrow.
See you. Thank
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thank you.